Hey, we're on video 1776. You know what that means, right? No? I got my water. Where is it? Where is it? We're going to read from the Constitution. I'll read the Declaration of Independence. Because some of yous don't know our Declaration of Independence. A transcription. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in course of human events becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, to assume the powers among the earth, to separate an equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires them to declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure those rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers for the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, organizing its power in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed to light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than the rights themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And here are the facts. He has refuted his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in the operation till his assent be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of the people, unless they should relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them, to formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the dispository of their public records, and for sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with mainly firmness of his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for the purpose of obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriation of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent of laws to establish judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out of their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their power of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial, for punishment of any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried by the pretended offenses, for establishing a free system of English laws in neighboring province, established therein an arbitrary government, by enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example of and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power and to legislate for us in all our cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun the circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and total unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioner of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their own hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and he has endeavored to bring the inhabitants of our frontiers, our merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned to redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be a ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions of our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts of their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. We have conjured them by the ties of their common kindred to disavow their usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections with correspondence. They too have deaf to the voice of justice and of consequency. Therefore, we must therefore acquiesce to the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war and in peace, friends. And therefore the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assemble, appeal to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare these united colonies are in the right to be free and independent states, that are absolved from the allegiance of the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the states of Great Britain is and ought to be dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliance, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And then it has all of the signatures of the original signers of the Declaration of Independence. Something to think about.